Welcome back to Hot Topics Live podcast. I am your host, Kia. You know I'm a coach, if you don't know me by now. Um, and I love to help people. I just love to help people. As a former U.S. Navy sailor, I continue my service through things like this podcast and working with female veterans. And I get a chance to talk to amazing people, and I have one for you today. So many people tell me all the time that they have a difficult time meditating. And I know that firsthand too, because when I first started on my sort of spiritual path, I had a spiritual guide. And the first thing he told me, if I wanted to heighten my intuition and all of these like definitely more spiritual or psychic skills that I have, then intuitive skills, I should say, then I needed to meditate. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I cannot shut my brain off. And if you have that problem, this episode is for you. Today, we are going to be discussing the effortless path to awakening. We're going to discover a new way to meditate for you so that you can experience a deeper inner freedom. I think that's how I would like to say that. And so my guest today is Gabriel, and I know him. I've known him for a while. We both coach together, which is why I opened the show by reminding you that I'm a coach. And we both worked with Brian Rose at London Real Academy, which I still work with Brian Rose at London Real Academy. So you can go through there if you want to experience my coaching, or you can reach out to me directly. And we worked together there, and it was such a beautiful experience. And I've had him on Hot Topics Live podcast before. So you just have to go to either Facebook. I don't know if it's on YouTube. It might be too old. I think it was 2020. So definitely pandemic era. And I definitely did a lot of podcasting during the pandemic. So those episodes are interesting. And Gabriel is one of them. And he is a coach. He is a mentor. He's a lot of things. I'm going to let him share. But the biggest thing to me that he is this extraordinary soul with this like real passion to help people just to become more enlightened and more aware and more grounded and more connected to the earth and to the spirit and to their own souls. So their oneness. And so I think it's so beautiful and so powerful. And I'm so happy to have him as a guest. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him on. Hi.
Hey, Kia. Thank you so much for such a beautiful introduction. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I meant every word. I just think you are such a beautiful soul. And I'm so glad that you came back to Hot Topics Live podcast to share what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm grateful and honored to be here again with you. And yeah, after 5 years, it's been a while. So there's been a lot going on. So I'm happy to share everything here with you.
Oh, that's beautiful. So tell me, like, what have you been up to these last 5 years?
Well, yes, I think you kind of summarize the driving force that's been moving me for the 5 past years, which is the same one that it's yours. It's service. It's the desire to serve others through our own path, through that which has been our own experience, what we have gone through, and I think the purest form of service that we can provide, and also the best way that we can help, is through the experiences that we went through and we don't want others to go through. So that's how we kind of help collectively everybody who is on the same interest. So yeah, if meditation, awakening, these words make any sense and resonate with anybody, then that's where I knock on the door and say, how you doing?
Beautiful. I love that because I roll in this community of very spiritual people. And so meditation and spiritual practices are pretty normal, but there's a lot of people who really don't understand it. And so, what would you say to someone who is curious, but they have not delved deep into this space yet?
Yeah. So I think it doesn't matter if we are on we have been on a long path in spirituality, or we just got interested in the topic of inner work and knowing a little bit more about awareness, whether we're starting or we have been on a long journey, the key thing that needs to happen is that we realize that whatever we seek at the bottom is peace. No matter which route we take, no matter how well adorned it is, everybody's seeking for peace, which is the foundation for happiness. And out of happiness is where we can love. So if we can understand that, which is very simple, then we can sort of see what the resonance is in terms of our seeking. Like, what is bringing me peace? And that's the path that we take into the self, into ourselves. Because usually, and this is something that everybody kind of gets in one way or another, we begin to seek for peace and happiness and love outside in objective reality, whether that be in relationships or activities or consumption of substances and so on. All these interactions with reality, at the bottom, they have the idea of finding peace and happiness and trying to fill our need for love. When this fails, then a lot of us seek in this direction that we call inner self, spirituality, and so on. And so what I offer is a way into which we go straight into the source of peace, which is what we call the direct path. And that is who you are, knowing who you are. And this is what anybody should really understand at some point in their journey. And I have found people who had very little interest and they just barely got started, or people who have been on this path for 10, 15 years. And this is the realization that everybody needs. So in my own method, that's what I really care for, to start with the foundational of what we're looking for. After that, Kia, that's where everything else that people are looking for comes out. So for example, if we're trying to meditate, you can only meditate if you understand the foundation of yourself. If you're looking for healing, then you can only heal if you know who you are, if you know who is the one healing and why. You see, so everything is connected to this. I say that I teach kindergarten or first grade rather than something complex and advanced, because this is what everybody needs. And like you said, yeah, it can be confusing for people to start meditating. I went through that. And it's a very difficult thing to try to understand because of so many misconceptions.
Yeah, I definitely in my early practice struggled to detach from thoughts, right? And I think a lot of people have that, that feeling like it's so hard and and I don't understand it. And I think that understanding the foundation and your own foundation is really important.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm curious, what led you down this path?
Yeah, it's interesting because we met around the time that I was finding my best way of service. And it was, if I can summarize it at this point, there was an event in my life that triggered what we call synchronicities, right? When things start to make connections in reality where you have no rational way of explaining it, and they're pointing into one direction and they're inciting something in you. So this was a chain of synchronicities that happened over a period of time that just ignited my curiosity. Me being a scientist, I was very interested in what is the whole bottom of this well of things that are happening. Like what's attracting me? And early I realized that it was awareness or consciousness itself. So my curiosity went into investigating this, and this led me to the path of the mystics, of reality as awareness. And with my scientific mind, of course, I wanted to understand it from a place in which there was no denial, no way to deny this understanding, rather than being conceptual, which is all we knew and learned. And this kind of ties in with the idea of meditation and why people struggle, because there is a concept, there is an idea of what meditation is. And that's what's ultimately going to make you fail all the time. But in terms of awareness, of course, which is what leads you to this understanding, that's where I found that we didn't have any information about awareness, not in Western philosophy, nor in science. So it led me down this path of Eastern philosophy, which attracted me a lot and just deeply resonated with my heart. And that's when I started to see that there was a different worldview, a different understanding, which had nothing to do with the mind and had nothing to do with abstract concepts, models, metaphysics, and so on. And eventually that led to practice and investigation that through meditation led me to this insight or this revelation of what it truly means. And from that point is when I didn't even say it. It was just something in me that started to come out as, this is what I need to do. Like, there's nothing else that my mind can think but this. So why would I try to do something else? If I try to do something else, not that I could even try, but it would go against what was coming through me. And so I simply took the path of least resistance, which was to teach this. And that's how it's been coming. I think it's going to be 4 years at this point.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So tell me, I mean, how can we make meditation more effortless?
Yeah, I think you just said the right word, because meditation feels like a struggle because there's something that we do, you see. And so when we do or try to do, then that particular mental effort, it's going to push it away in a sense. So the key to meditation is to realize that there's actually nothing that you need to do but to be in acceptance with what is. In other words, is not resisting that which is coming. And because we have so many misconceptions, that's really what makes it so difficult. Because we say, well, I couldn't quiet my mind, so I don't know how to meditate. I couldn't focus my attention in whatever particular thing was, then my concentration is not good enough. I need to train that. So every one of these excuses or reasons that the mind gives is just to buy a little bit more time, to extend this acceptance of what is, which is not dependent on what is in the moment, right? The more we look at our minds, we see that there's always variability in what's happening. There's always change, and there's nothing in particular that we need to reach for a particular meditation. One of the misconceptions that happens also is that, well, I was good at meditating today. I had a great meditation today, or I had a terrible time meditating today. And here's where you can see that there's still obviously some idea of what meditation is. So we can only have a good meditation if we have an ideal concept of what is. Having my mind maybe calm, that's a good meditation. That's not true, because meditation does not depend on a particular state of mind, or maybe I had visions today, and I qualify that as something being good. And the more we realize this, then we see that we're in the act of meditation. We're seeking the same things we're seeking outside, which is, the good part, and we want to avoid the bad ones. And that's not what meditation is. If anything, it's just learning to be with yourself at peace without reacting to whatever is happening. So that's what makes it not an effortless, but also it takes away the expectations. It takes away so much burden. It frees you from all the expectations that we normally ascribe to what meditation should be. And if I'm getting better, if I do more time, maybe, or if I practice this before I meditate, and so on. So I think that's a better result to talk about, not just the effortless part, but how free you feel from the constraints that you might have bought in the past about what meditation is. So that's what I would say that makes it so easy and peaceful to just be in this state. And it's not something that you reserve for sitting or for whatever formal practice you have, but it's also something that you are becoming aware at every moment in your day, and you're allowing it to be, instead of just a sort of practice that I do. Meditation stops being a practice, but it's your natural state of being. And I think that's what's more powerful than anything else in this path.
I love that. I remember my spiritual guide, Julian. There was some episodes on this podcast with Julian Polson. If you want to check those out, you can go and find them on YouTube and Facebook on the Hot Topics Live page or channel. And Julian told me one of the first things he said when I was like, I can't meditate. He said, "Do you like coffee?" And I said, "I love coffee. I drink it every morning." And he said, "Okay, when you're having your coffee tomorrow morning, I don't want you to put the TV or anything on. And I want you to just sit somewhere comfortable for you and just drink your coffee. Just drink your coffee and listen to the sounds and see the sights, or just drink your coffee and allow that moment to be, like allow that to happen and enjoy it." And so then the next morning I thought, okay. So the next morning I went and I had my coffee and I sat on my couch without the TV, and I just was in that moment. Like I just sat there sipping my coffee, enjoying the flavor, and allowing the thoughts that I had to like pass through. And it was very pleasurable. It was such a good moment. And I started to do that every moment, or like every morning and every time that I had my coffee. And what ended up happening later is every evening I would sit and close my eyes and do the traditional style of meditation, right? And I could never quiet my mind. Like I could never, um, I have like a lot of racing thoughts. So I could never kind of quiet that. And that's why I wanted to meditate, because I just needed a break from all of the noise in my head. And it actually started happening for me, where for longer and longer periods of time, but I started by just sipping coffee. And then through that process, I realized that also a lot of things can be meditation. It doesn't have to just be sitting, you know, in this particular way and trying to control my mind in a particular way, right? I realized that when I was doing my vocal training with my vocal coach and I was doing my exercises and I was present in that moment, that was almost like a meditation for me. So anything that I, really lost myself in and in the enjoyment of it sort of became like a meditation for me. And I think for me, that's how it became more effortless. Yeah. So, as for what you're teaching, what do you find are some of the, if you can share this, some of the struggles that your clients face when they're trying to have this type of practice in their life?
Yeah. So there are three common things that I would say are the biggest issues that people down this path want. Because remember, if we go back to the reason why we do this is not to attain anything special, but the core of what every attainment brings us, which is peace. If we haven't discovered that what we're looking for is peace, then our mind is still not fully convinced. Our mind will still try to look for an objective experience, activity, substance, relationship that is congruent with what it thinks it wants, And then out of that, it's going to taste peace, but it's going to ascribe it to the objective thing, right? So
Oh.
out of
Mhm.
this mistake is where we continue to engage in reality in a way that we're taken away. We want to take away, even if it's just a tiny bit, right? We're taken away. And this is not congruent with who we are, because who we are is something abundant, something that is always giving, right? That's what we yearn for. We don't yearn to take things from reality, from people, from objects, from nature. We want to give away. That's why we are creative by nature. That's who we are. So you see, that's the sort of mental struggle that everybody is facing, but they're unaware of it because they don't know what they want. They don't know who they are. So that's why here we cut straight into who we are to see that what we find in our foundational self is peace itself. So with this, the only thing that needs to happen is a correction of identity. You see, the problem that happens when we're trying to meditate is because this little character that we call the separate self or the ego is the one trying to meditate. So this is the first struggle, that there is a mistaken idea of identity. And so I am this image who is trying to meditate for what reason? To attain something. So this dynamic needs to be understood and weakened, which is what happens also in formal meditation. Even if you're not getting to the foundational self, you're beginning to see through experience, through long exposures of meditation practice, that this image is not really that true. It's a sort of mirage that's there, and it's constantly telling us how to behave and how to react. So what's happening here is that if we look straight into what we are, and we see, obviously knowing that what I want is peace. And that's why the people that I sort of attract to work with are those who have been on the path long enough, frustrated with their seeking, saying, I need to find the answer, right? And so that's what leads us to, okay, let's find the answer of what you really want in yourself, and then allow that to inform your reality, allow that to inform your mind. So the struggles that will come out of this is, one, discerning the ego, which is the first thing that we do. We need to identify that activity that we call the ego. I found within my own experience through years that I understood the ego completely conceptually, but not in direct experience. And that was something that was gnawing at me, because I totally understood the whole scheme, the whole model of what the ego is, but I couldn't recognize it. And I couldn't know when my ego wanted things and when myself wanted things. And these are two different things that I talk about, which is personal and impersonal desires. Who is the one that wants something? And so the first struggle, or the first aspect that we need to recognize, is that who we are, and by a function of knowing who we are, then we can understand what this rascal ego is, right? What that image that is coming and trying to convince us to, again, act and behave in ways that sometimes we don't feel like they're the best way, and they're not very nourishing for us. So this is what leads to the next step, which is the most important one probably in this: healing or liberation. If you're looking to heal or liberate, how would that be possible if there's still some conflict with your personality, with who you are? You don't know if it's the ego that wants it and you retain it, or if it's yourself that wants to liberate it. So that's why we established from the beginning an unequivocal way to understand who you are. From there is where we can allow healing effortlessly also. And out of this, the next, and which is the struggle that everybody really wants to have, is how much can I bring out of the self that I am, of my true personality? And that's what I call spontaneous being, because it's not something that you are going to do, but it's something that's already happening within you, and just allowing it. In a way, you can see how we pave the road for recognizing that which does not serve you anymore, also known as the ego. liberating or letting go of all those things that you now recognize as the ego's narrative, by a function of that, then you can begin to discern and see what you are, what you want to do, which I call your true personality. And that's a spontaneous one. That's not something that you cultivate as you do cultivate. You cultivate the environment in which that blossoms, but you don't cultivate that personality by adding things or instructing it or learning. It's already within you. So it shouldn't take any effort to be who you are. Just like a flower doesn't make any effort, but just blooms out of what is from the seed. And that's all of us. But the thing is that we don't blossom physically anymore. We just blossom mentally and spiritually, openly to others. Again, what is it that we want? Peace. Why do I want it? Because I want others to have it too. And that's why service is always in this direction, as you know, Kia.
Oh my gosh, what a beautiful explanation of all of those things. And I just want to hear everything like you have to say. Like I feel like there's more that I want to know. How do you help people to understand that that's what they're seeking? Because I feel like a lot of people feel like they're seeking a lot of things, but don't realize that what it truly is peace. For example, lots of people want to enter into a healthy, loving partnership, but they think that they're looking for love, but really they're looking for peace.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the art and the beauty of working with people, really, because we first need to understand what the person really wants. So, for example, that's a beautiful one. And oftentimes this is confused as to, well, I don't need anybody. I have love within myself. So having a partner, a husband, a wife, it's not really, that's when we take the teaching conceptually, you see, and we get into this bind because inside, it may be true for the person, but some of us, we still want somebody who share our lives with. So the question is, do you want it because it's going to satisfy something that is lacking within you? Or do you want it because you want to share your being with somebody else? Those are two different reasons, you see?
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter what the person is seeking. The question is, why do you want it? You see? So we're trying to see or guide the person into, can you see that ultimately, I mean, if you're coming from a place of abundance and peace, like you want to share this peace, then there's nothing to worry about, and you shouldn't worry about anything because you're already in a good state. But if the person feels like, I've failed so many times with relationships and I'm really looking for the one that is going to make me happy, then we see that as a red flag to see the cycle of getting something for me to be happy. And the default mode for this relationship will be, you have to provide something to me in order to make me happy. You see, and I'm going to try to get that from you. So this already is a relationship of taking. There is some giving, but there is a sort of transactional relationship here. And so the alternative, and that's the question, wouldn't you want to be in an alternative in which you have nothing to take from the other, but actually give them everything? And I think that's true love in a way that is, it's not trying to take away anything, which again, it doesn't mean that you cannot receive openly what is given to you, right? It's not that you're closing yourself, but that's what really makes you understand that what you're looking for is peace there. So find it within yourself if you want to have a healthy relationship in which you're actually given so much that the other person is growing with you. So it depends on every context of what people want, but ultimately, this understanding that we're looking for peace, and peace is inside us. Like I said at the beginning, there seems to be a reason why most of us have to go outward a lot to fail, in essence. And it's almost like included in us, in our minds, human minds, to seek outside until we fail. The mind needs to fail in order to find what it's looking for, always.
Interesting. The mind needs to fail in order to find what it's looking for.
Yeah.
And what might that look like?
This will probably put it into context really easy. What the mind is looking for is peace. Again, remember, every seeking, every question that comes out is always to find peace. But look at the nature of seeking or questions. It's an agitation, right? There is a disquietness within us that makes us seek. So once I find the answer, I'll be at peace. I'll be happy. Once I find this, I'll be happy. So when the mind seeks, right, and it finds something, it does come into peace. So let's give the example, because we do find peace when we achieve something, or when we meet somebody who makes us feel great, or we get the compliment, the job promotion, whatever. There's something going on and it's real. But is it really the thing, or what else is happening? Let's give the example of maybe you want a new computer or a new car or something, right? It's an object. And you have been thinking about it, and you have been working, and finally the day comes in where you get the car, and all of this expectation for having it subsides, right? And you say, wow, I finally have it. I feel great. Was it really the object, or was it the agitation in your mind, the expectation, finally achieving something just relaxed the agitation that was there, present? So everything that we obtain or achieve, what it does is that it releases the mind from its agitation. So that's where we experience peace, love also, because I'm finally with the person that I love so much. I don't care about anything in the world. I have you, and that's it. But eventually that wears off, and we go back to our behaviors, and we find conflicts and so on. So this is what I mean by the mind needs to fail. The mind needs to fail in its seeking through objective experience to find peace. And even in self-inquiry, which I'll introduce now, self-inquiry is a way to say, who am I? And try to find the answer. It's a very fascinating question, because every answer that we get is going to be conceptual, always. All answers that come up as a thought, an idea, an image, they're all going to be short-lived, and yet they do not compare with the experience of being. What we call I is being or self. And so it's the only thing that we cannot fully describe. And everything is centered around me. So when we cut through with this question to ourselves, what we find is that what I am, which is where everything is, feels calm, feels peaceful. And that's what you begin to see as, oh, the source of peace is not really something outside of me. It's myself. And the mind is failing because every single concept, idea, label, name that comes up, it's not satisfactory. So the mind, even in this process, that's how we make it fail quickly. We just ask it, who are you? And all answers are going to be unfulfilling, always. You'll never be able to satisfy this. And so this is how we submerge the mind into nothingness, which is the nature of our being. And it doesn't matter how many times it comes up again. We know that that's not the answer. And we sink deeper and deeper into the state of simply being. So that's how we make the mind fail in this process of self-inquiry. And the result is just pure knowing, more wisdom, and a deeper sense of relationship with the world. So I won't go into more details there because I'm expanding too much, but that's how it looks like.
No, but I love that. It was really deep, and I think useful for a lot of people. on this journey. Sabrina, thank you for tuning in. Also, if you're watching, I don't know why you guys are always so shy. You can comment, you can ask questions, show some love, share with someone who might need this. But I want to give a shout out to Sabrina for dropping a comment. So thank you for that and for always being amazing and loving and supportive, and also being very full of light. So I love that. And I'm glad you were able to catch me live today. So I know that you will love this topic and Gabriel and everything that he's doing. And so I'm really glad you're here. It obviously was meant to be, is my point. So anyway, so Gabriel, I love like this whole self-inquiry thing, because I think that a lot of times we're kind of going through life and we don't stop to like really go with that deeply within. And so there's so much happening in the world, there's so much happening in our realities, there's so much happening in our day to day that it's really hard to stop and like do that deep internal reflection, you know. So I love that you said that. Now, is this something that we could maybe journal or like write down and just like sort of get it out on paper and look and review it? Or is it something that we should sort of sit with and do internally?
Some people, that's a beautiful question. I I find that some people, also, by the way, I'm always open to questions. I love that you opened that to your audience, because sometimes it can feel like it's just us talking here, but we're here for them. And any questions
Yes.
that might come up, I live for answering questions to the best of my ability. So thank you for refreshing people and inciting them to do it, because just a little parenthesis here. Over time, I have found that the best way to help and show people this way is through dialogues, conversation, and questions. So, yeah. Oh, I had a little blackout there.
You
I'm still
good?
with you, right, Kia? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay.
I don't know what that was. I thought my power went up.
Oh my God.
Um,
We're live, that you don't even know half of the things that happen when I'm live. It always happens when
I
I'm
can
live.
imagine.
But live is live, right? So you roll with it. The show must go on. So I didn't
Yeah.
notice anything. So all good. And yeah, I do love to tell people to ask questions because my audience is shy. You can put questions in the comments, even if you're watching the replay. And I check my comments and stuff so I can get you answers. But I love my comments. I love the questions, and I'm here for all of that. I answer as many questions and comments myself in the comments of people who watch it later. So don't be shy. Let me know you're here. So as you were,
Yeah.
Gabriel, is this something can we just do this written? Do
Yeah.
we discuss this? Should we do this with a partner? Like, how is the best way to do this self inquiry, or what are there multiple ways that we can achieve this?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, because there is no ideal way of doing it.
Mhm.
I find that what we decide to do from that question is helpful for our particular desires and the way our mind works. For example, when you say journaling, a lot of people do this. And what you would see, and I encourage people to do this, is the creative impulse, which is something that we haven't spoken much about, but the spontaneous being that arises from this understanding, which is kind of makes sense if you look at the ego as some voice that is always telling you what to do, how to feel, how to behave, right? How to react, and so on. What do you think can happen if this voice becomes simply background noise, right? And eventually just sort of dissipates? Are you going to stay in a catatonic state and a trance? You may. But when you are in reality, something else is going to inform you how to behave, how to react, and everything else. This is where we find the spontaneous being that I'm talking about. And this spontaneous being is at peace with itself, happy in its relationships outside, with love and creative. So that's the key thing when it comes to journaling. You will see that what comes out of this is creative. It's your own creative impulse. So I would definitely encourage that for people who are going through this, because insights are going to come constantly. So journaling, it's a great idea. Recording themselves, anything that will incentivize this creative impulse, because like I said, it's inevitable. Your mind doesn't stay blank. It's filled with that which is more powerful within you than an echo, because the ego is simply an echo. It's always memory, and we pay too much attention to it. That's why we give it so much reality, right? But the moment you start not paying attention and like rejecting it, but actually seeing it for what it is, simply voices, right? And you know that what they're telling you, it's not very congruent with how you want to feel. I feel unworthy. It makes me feel like I lack. It makes me feel like I should be angry about this or sad and all this. That's the moment you realize, like, oh, this is not informing me well. The more we let this go, allowing it to be simply, then the more this creative impulse is going to come. Now, in terms of discussing it with somebody else, I find that that's a blessing. If you have somebody who you can talk to and share this path, that is a blessing, particularly if it's somebody near, very dear to you, a friend, your partner, siblings, or I've found even mother and daughter relationship that are amazing. Like, people just have these connections. So everything's open. The one thing that is unavoidable is, yes, self-inquiry is what should be established. And it doesn't need, you don't need that much time, Kia. We just need, I encourage everybody, because one of the excuses that we listen from our mind is, oh, I didn't have enough time today. I don't have time to meditate. I have problems. So I say, okay, let's eliminate this excuse for time. Do it 5 minutes every day. There's nobody who can say, I didn't have 5 minutes today. We can see the lie to expose there and say, I have 5 minutes. I really do. So take those 5 minutes and sync with that. Actually put an alarm. Don't try to do more. That's it. Get up. And I want people to crave more of this, right? That's how your meditation begins to move from short periods of time to longer, and wanting to do it more. So I like to restrict people's meditation rather than giving them a long time. Try to be disciplined. No, try to be disciplined with 5 minutes. So yeah, there are so many ways that we can do this, and it should be fun. Like, we shouldn't have to meditate. We want to love to meditate, not need it because it's good for you. We never do this. Whenever we're told this is good for you, nutrition, exercising, all of this, it's because it's good for you. Nobody's going to do it. But if you love doing it, nobody's going to stop you.
Yeah. I love that you said that. I remember in telling Julian, my spiritual guide, like, I did it. I meditated for 10 minutes. And he was like, Kia, it's not about the time. Like, stop thinking about how long you're meditating for. Like, just, it's not about that. Right. And so it was like a process to like shift from what I think this sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say society, but like what this belief system around what meditation is and what it should be. It was like sort of in me of what it was. And I had to sort of unlearn that in order to really connect with myself through this process. Right. So I agree. I think you have to love it. And you do love it. The more that you do it and the more that it feels freeing, I think. And you feel like, for me, I have a lot of answers come up for me when I meditate, like, especially if I have difficulties in my life. And so oftentimes I will get the answer, right, that I need, or what I should do, or some divine direction, I guess. So it's a beautiful experience. This is why I love that you teach this. And so I have questions now for you in the chat. So to put them up here, Sabrina, like, I love that you took initiative here and started asking some questions. So for those of you listening to this in podcast form or audio form instead of watching it, Sabrina says, would it be safe to say to learn about yourself, your purpose, to help guide us into self-inquiry. I'm not sure if I understand the question, but do you get it?
I'm trying to. Would it be safe to say to learn about yourself, your purpose to help guide us into self-inquiry? Yeah, I'm not sure if the order in which I'm getting it is correct. So for self-inquiry, actually, and this is what I loved about the method, it's not a complicated thing. It's just really, asking, who are you? What do you mean when you say I? Like what are you referring to when you say I? And you'll get answers from the mind, right? I'll try to tie it in with what I think Sabrina means here, but that's it. It's nothing complicated actually. It's a simple, plain question. No metaphysics or spirituality involved. No ego. Nothing. Just simply asking the question: what do you mean when you say I? Because you say I all the time. Your thoughts, when you look at your thoughts, they're always saying there's an I implicit there, right? There's me. It's happening to me. It happened to me. I will do it, etc. So, what do you mean? Like, who is this I? And now you will begin to see a contrast between that which you point at when you say I and that which comes up as the answer. And there's a difference there. So you couldn't be those two things. What we do find is that what I am cannot be described, but what comes up is my activity, right? So it's almost like, who are you? And you describe yourself in terms of movement. Your movement is what you do. What you are is this physical body. I'm talking about physical reality here, right? Nobody is described in terms of their movement, right? That's something that they do. Same with our titles and everything else. So the more we see this in direct experience, that's what brings us to the state of being with yourself. Now the instruction is stay there, be with yourself. You see? And you see how the mind will pull you back. There's a very strong tendency that we have developed over decades at this point. So there's a strong tendency. How do you weaken it? Return to yourself. Bring back identity to its source. And if I understand the question, and I'm open to getting it refined, your purpose is something that it shines through naturally because it's what you are. And as I said, the only thing that makes it, that clouds it, that makes it a little bit opaque, is the constant attention that we have to the narrative of the mind. If we are able to disengage from that, not repress it, not reject it, just simply disengage. And when I say disengage, what's being disengaged is your identity. You're not those thoughts. You're not the narrative. Whatever it's saying about you, whether that be great or terrible, you're not. Know who you are in the moment and stay there. Then the more we disengage with this, and it's not a new narrative, it's actually a new expression, will begin to substitute those thoughts. And these thoughts are the ones that we find inspiring, creative, and just of service. That's your purpose. Your purpose is to be that which is coming through, which at first it feels a little shy, like a timid voice. And this is where we begin to see all our insecurities and all the things that, oh no, I'm a little bit afraid to be myself, right? But everybody wants to be themselves. Everybody else is taken. Be yourself. It's easy. It's effortless.
I love that. So it's funny that you say that because I met a person and I was being myself, and they told me that what they were experiencing, their experience of me seemed fake.
Mm.
And I said to them, well, I don't know who else to be. This is who I am. And I feel sad for you that your experience of kindness seems fake because it tells me that the people that you typically interact with are not very nice, right? Like they're not very kind. Actually, I shouldn't say nice. Kind. That's the word. So it made me a little bit sad. I think it's important for all of us to be who we are. And it's also very surprising to me that sometimes when people encounter something they're unaccustomed to, they perceive it as inauthentic. So, and it's interesting. Sabrina says, thank you. That's what she was asking. So I love that. Who I am, what I am outside of stories and programming from birth. Yes. And also, I was listening to something you were talking about, and you were talking about the spontaneous self and how all of this sort of programming. I was going to ask you, is this programming that we have received our entire life can fall away, and then the spontaneous self is who you truly are? Just wanted to clarify that.
Absolutely. There is an association here that everybody notices, and just think about a child. Child is always the best reference. Why? Because they are, for the most part, unconditioned, right? They haven't been conditioned yet, and there's a lot of freedom to be. Also, because they haven't created, to a certain point, that self-reflective thought. This is the great hurdle that all humans have to go through, because self-reflective thought is the one that says, oh, I did it. And it's a necessary part of our development as humans. So this is the part that some people get wrong in terms of the ego when they say the ego is needed to live. I think there's some further clarification, because it is a disservice to leave it at that. And sorry that I'm going on a tangent here, but this is a very important point. You will hear this a lot, and what people mean is that self-reflective thought is necessary to live. I'm here talking as Gabriel, and you are Kia, right? I know that's not who you are, and I know that's not who I am, but we're talking here, and we're kind of having a consensual agreement in terms of our identities, right? And that's helpful. Self-reflective thought. The thing is to believe that I am that, right? And I get in close into this. And so I say, well, I need this ego, this image that I have of myself to live. That's false. You don't need it. Because for me to speak these words, and everybody who's speaking know this, I'm not thinking about my words. They're just coming through. How am I doing that without thought? Because I am naturally spontaneous. Now, one of the service that we do, or we sign up for when we say that we need the ego, is that we're going to justify unkind behaviors. Because guess what? The ego is necessary. And so that's part of my ego. It's okay that I'm unkind. This happens subconsciously because we have bought to the idea that the ego is necessary. And the other disservice, not just being unkind, but also that which is natural in you, you're going to say, and I've heard this so many times, that's my ego wanting this. I'm not going to do it. And it turns out that it's your spontaneous self that wants to do it. So these two are going to work in tandem to keep you from just being at peace and happy with yourself, accepting who you are, the way you are, right? So there are many things that we can explore there. But this is the main reason why I encourage spontaneous being, because inside of us, there is no such thing as an adult, not a spiritual adult at least. We're all children. We don't have enough time to explore the spontaneity. And this is why when you look at mystics, they act like children. They really do. But in a very controlled and very composed state. But they act like children. What do? They joke. They feel alive. It's the same thing. The only thing that matured was the body. And so if we pay attention to that, we'll see that, wait, I don't want to behave like a child. I'm an adult. My behaviors and the things that I want to do and the way I want to dress, the things that and this goes for all kinds of styles and ways of being. We think that they're not mature. So that's how we continue to repress and put up a fake identity outside and live with that burden all of our lives, instead of just being who we are in every single way and letting go of all those insecurities. And I know it's tough, but it's the way, and it has to go. So your spontaneous self is something that is actually crying within you to come out. It's desiring this, it's just wanting it. So we got to understand and be a little bit more compassionate with ourselves to understand really that it's just a voice. It's not really who we are. And let that be, so this can just flow naturally. No effort there. You're muted, Kia.
They're doing work outside my house, and I shut off the sound so that it wouldn't interrupt what you were saying, but they're done now. So I was saying that was really beautiful, because I know personally, like, I feel sometimes that as I'm growing older, the people around me are losing that sense of playfulness that I can't do without. Um, and it makes me really sad, but I mean, we are not all like these perfect people, right? So, like, for example, yesterday I was at a luncheon, so I was dressed up. And at the end of that luncheon, right, I was going with another friend, and we were going to see some live music, which was like really laid back. And I was completely overdressed, right? And so, and just putting this in simple terms, right? So I was completely overdressed. And I brought clothes to change into, and my friend was like, don't change. She was like, just wear that. And I was like, I struggled with being overdressed, right? But ultimately, I was like, I'm going to just wear it, and just be who I am, right? Because I'm very different than everyone around. Everyone here where I live is just very, very chill. And I came from Miami, so I like to dress up. It's part of who I am, right? It's part of my nature. And so I think her sort of being like, don't worry about that. It's not even an issue. Like, this is a silly thing to even care about, right? And so it actually made me think, wow, you know what? I do a lot of work, like self-work, on all the time, but like there's still so much work I have to do. So interesting. I was just thinking about that, like appearances and ego and how all of that goes together. And I thought I would share that. But anyways, I want to talk about your course that you're doing, and find out more about that. Because if you've been watching and listening, then you know that you can feel his energy, and you can feel how knowledgeable he is about this stuff. And I'm really excited that you have a new offering, and I want to share it with people.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Kia. I think
Course.
you just said it. I have a lot of knowledge of myself. That's all I can share. The more you get to know yourself, the more, like I said at the beginning with you, we go through certain experiences so that others don't have to. And if they are in those experiences, which is really the people that we can help the most, then we can definitely speed up by taking away so many of the obstacles that we went through. So that's what my course is. My course is a reflection of what went through me in this seeking, avoiding all those things that are not necessary and concentrating on those things that are important. I could describe it really easy. We talked about self-inquiry. That's the foundational element of our work together. And out of self-inquiry, which is just, I tell people, just be curious, be extremely curious about that. And out of that is where we're going to see what effortless meditation is really about, which is just an abidance in that. If you know who you are, then all you need to do is be yourself. That requires no effort. And then you will see how, oh, the mind is pulling me this way. That's where we start to work the ego so we can heal. That would be the second most important aspect, healing. And the third one is through that healing, what's coming through? What do you want to do? What is it that the self spontaneously wants to do through you? And so we explore all of this in my work. I work primarily as a mentor because I have done courses, like online courses in the past, but working with people one-on-one is the best way that I can help I get to see what specifically, and this is a coach as well, Kia. So it's just really the best way to help people. So that's what my course is about, plus my support and being there. So if anybody is interested, the best way that we can talk about this is on a one-on-one call. That's all I'm really going to offer. I have my social media. It's been there for years, but nothing like talking directly to people and see what they need, what they want.
Okay, so do you want to share any information on how to connect with you at this point?
I would have to leave you my links for people to follow if they want to see my content in social media, or
What about your website?
My website right now is Gaia Despierta. Is actually in Spanish. That's where you will find my old content. But most of my work, it's right now on Instagram, where I share, in essence, directly this information.
And what is your Instagram?
That would be Gabriel Lugo, just like my name, EN, like English.
Awesome. So I'm going to put that up on the screen in 2 seconds so that everyone can go to Instagram and follow you. You said Gabriel Lugo, EN, any underscores, anything like that?
Nope, just that.
Okay, so I'm going to put this up there, and if it's wrong, then you'll tell me. Okay. Right.
That's a great place. If you follow me, say hello. That actually looks perfect.
Awesome. So that's where you want to go. That's where you want to go and follow him. Definitely do that, right? Also, if you're not following me, follow me on there too. Hot Topics Live podcast, and check out the content there. Actually, I'm so excited that Instagram is finally pushing my content. So you might actually see it. Okay. People are actually seeing it finally. So it only took like 2 years. So go and follow Gabriel so you can contact him if you want to get some support, get some coaching. You know what I always say, anything you want to do in life, get a coach and a mentor. Actually, those two things are so critical for your success because people need support. People need accountability. People need someone to talk to these days. There's an epidemic of loneliness. I mean, get all the support you can get. I love coaching. I love coaching one-on-one too. I do love group coaching like I do at London Real Academy, and I have done since 2019. But I like one-on-one coaching. I feel like it's very personal and it feels very deeply connected when we are coaching, like when we are doing our video calls or we're texting back and forth. Like it feels deeply connected. And I feel like we can make so much progress so quickly in that type of coaching. So I love that you do it that way, that's also your preference, because I think it's really impactful and really powerful to engage in such a close way. So I love what you're doing. And I'm so grateful that you came to be a guest on Hot Topics Live podcast. And it's been really just great to see you after all these years and see that you're doing well and you're still helping so many people.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I'm honored to be here again with you, Kia. Just thank you for the opportunity and thank you for sharing this with people and doing what you do. We don't know the impact that we have on people. Most of the impact that we give on people, especially in social media, we never hear back from that. And I think that's really amazing. So thank you for doing that.
It's so true. And it's been my pleasure. I actually had someone tell me that they watch every single one of my clips on Instagram. And they I don't know if they watch the whole podcast because, a lot of people like shorts and stuff. The attention span is short these days sometimes. But like, I was so like blown away too. I thought it was the sweetest thing ever that someone watches all of my clips. So you just never know, right? Like you said, you just never know. Hi, Phil. I see you. You're back again. One of my hotties back in the house. Who knows to comment if they're watching? So, hi, sweetie. Glad you made it. But we're about to wrap it up. So, I want to say again, thank you so much, Gabriel, for coming. I know you have somewhere to be. So, I just again wanted to say I appreciate you so much. And if there's anything else you wanted to say before I put you in the green room.
No, just invite everybody to just take even 1 minute and ask that question. It won't take you long. Just remember, any idea, any concept, any label that comes up, just see how much it satisfies you. Keep asking.
Keep asking. I love that. Thank you so much. If you can't wait
Thank you,
for a
Kia.
proper goodbye, I understand. I'll catch up with you again soon. But it has been such a pleasure, and I'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Kia.
Bye for now. He's so darling, right? He's so darling. So, this is the part of the show that if you've made it this far, you know it's for you. So don't go anywhere. You know what I'm going to do if you've been watching Hot Topics Live podcast, but if you're new here, then we're going to do something really, really special for you. You're going to love this. We're going to play a little cards, but it's sort of like a meditative thing. So I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And what I have here is my Soul Truth Awareness deck. That's right. It's by Brianne Hovey. And I am going to get a message from you from whatever you believe in, your God, your spirit, source, whatever, Allah, Buddha. It's all welcome here. I love everything. I'm open to everything. So whatever you believe in, your higher self, or just like a message that for guidance from nowhere, but just meant for you. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle up these cards and one's going to fly out at random. So you know I didn't pick it. I'm not picking your message. And you will get a very special little message for you. Again, these are a soul truth awareness deck. So, very special message just for you. Thank you for watching and being with me this far through Hot Topics Live podcast. If you have made it this far, you're part of the tribe, the family. You're one of my hotties. So I appreciate you. I come live probably every other week, sometimes once a week. So what you'll want to do is set your notifications so you know when I come live. I like it to be kind of like a surprise. My Dating After Divorce series is still going. I just did a new episode with a guy and we went back and forth. It was pretty funny. We almost dated, by the way. It didn't work out. You'll see why if you watch that episode. Oh, okay. So one fell. So hold on. Okay. I got it. It didn't go that far. All right. So now I'm going to read it to you. You take your breath, let it out in a peaceful state. And ready? This is your message. Where can I ask for more help in my life? If this resonates, it's for you. Until we can receive with an open heart, we're never really giving with an open heart. When we attach judgment to receiving help, we knowingly or unknowingly attach judgment to giving help. This is by Brene Brown. Brene Brown, right? That's her name. So today's soul action. Today, ask someone for help and receive it with an open heart. Today's mantra. I ask for what I want and I am open to receiving it. But I think that message was for me too. So I hope you felt that. I hope it was amazing for you. You got something out of it. Take what resonates, leave the rest, I guess. If you like pretty pictures and you want to follow along my pinup journey, then you can find more of my creativity and my art on my Instagram. My main page, like my personal Instagram page, is at Creativity. So you can find everything here. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok as well. I'm on there. Hot Topics Live podcast, the Female Veterans podcast. You know, I coach and work with female veterans as well. At Creativity for all of the pinup stuff, if that's more your thing. Make sure you follow my stories every day because I put stuff in my stories every day. When I go do activities, sometimes I'll like show more stuff that's fun and entertaining and interesting. So you might like that. Sometimes I chat and connect. So, anyways, I want to appreciate you so much for being with me on this journey and coming back every time I'm live. And if you haven't been, then start. And Sabrina, thank you so much for tuning in and being part of my soul tribe and just chatting. And Phil for being brave enough to drop a comment and let me know you're here. You know what? 65% of my audience is men. You guys stop pretending. You're here. Leave a comment and a nice one. Okay, a nice one. All right. So, check all the description box for links and all of that good stuff. I love you guys. Set your notifications, okay? And I will see you probably next week. Bye for now.